Hello, everybody. Welcome to Off Panel, a weekly interview podcast about all things comics, brought to you by Sketch.com. I'm your host, David Harper, and this week's guest is the... Wait, hold on a second, Jesse. You got a lot of stuff going on. I have to get a list of things you're working on. All right, there's Drome. You have he's got Drome, his graphic novel that arrived in shops last week after this is going up later.
Right.
He's got a Kickstarter going for a new printing of his comic Faster. He's drawing Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man over at Dark Horse. He just had a story drop in Godzilla vs. Boston over at IDW. And on his Patreon, he's working on another comic in Panda Delivery Service. It's Jesse Lonergan. Thanks for coming on, Jesse.
Hello. Oh, not much. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Not much. Whatever.
You make it sound like it's so many things.
I mean, that is
it's also like it's like the sequencing is sort of aligning. You know,
yeah.
It's a lot. Things have been done for a while, and they just haven't come.
I know. I mean, that's the funny thing is if you take somebody's list at any given moment, it's going to sound really crazy because it's like a confluence of events results in you having 5 things happening simultaneously. But Drome, okay, let's go through it really quick. How long have you been done with Drome?
I think I finished Drome. The last art probably about a year ago.
Okay.
Maybe some edits, a little less.
Faster you've been done with since 2020?
Yeah, 2021.
2021.
So it's just a reprinting.
I know.
So there's no new material. Well, I mean, there's going to be new material to people in there, but I haven't drawn anything.
I just want to say I'm OG. I got the first printing red risograph Faster version, which I was very pleased when I talked to Zach Clemente and he told me that was the first edition. I was like, I knew I was early on board the Loner gang, but I wanted to be sure about it.
That was the first one with them. Yeah.
Are you done with Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man?
I am. Yeah. I finished it about a month ago. I think I finished all the work on that. And so I'm actually like kind of at like a little taking like a little bit of a break work-wise at the moment. I mean, my version of a break.
I mean, you do have you have pages coming from Panda Delivery Service on the regular on your Patreon. So there is that. But I am curious, like, are you obviously confluence of events? This did not sequence as it sounds, but are you someone who, beyond this moment, typically is working and thinking about multiple different projects at one time?
Yeah. To maybe a frustrating degree. Like I feel like I have a lot of like half-baked ideas that I'm like, I will sort of think I should just like start on, or I feel like other people like have their like narrative ideas, and I don't really have narrative ideas in the same way. I have like medium ideas, like what if it worked like this? And it's like, oh, that's an interesting way to make something work. And it's like, what's the story for it? It's like, I'll figure that out. But like, so I always have a few things going at a time, generally.
I don't know why. This is just my Jesse Lonergan headcanon, but I kind of feel like you're very good at workflow, and that might not be a fair assumption, but it just seems like you would have the mind for something like that.
Yes and no. I think like I'm very very good at sitting at a desk and doing work. Whether not necessarily like being organized, but like if I sit at a desk for 2 hours, I will work for 2 hours and not do much else. And sometimes I think other people, when I hear how long they take to do things, I think, oh, you must be doing other things. Like when people talk about watching like a new movie while they're working, I'm like, I don't think I can do that, because if I'm working, I can watch bad TV, but I can't watch something I'm actually that interested in. So like I think that is probably one of my skills, is just like I can sit down and focus for hours, and sort of try and work until things are done.
You have that brute force power. You can just get in there and get it done.
It's just like, I don't know, you put in 5-6 hours every day, things happen.
I remember my first day on this internship that I had early in my career. It was a marketing internship, and this one person was out of town, and they wanted me to take over his report. And they're like, "It's really hard. It takes this person 8 hours every single day. So I just want you to warn you that this will probably be most of your day." And I was like, "All right." And I sit down and I like do it in like 10 minutes, and I was like, "Did I do something wrong? Like, did I
Yeah.
do this wrong?" And I think sometimes it's like we forget. I say this respectfully. I'm a time waster in my own regard at certain times. But a lot of times I feel like my secret power is that if I need to sit down and do something, I will just sit down and do it. And like
Yeah.
that is kind of a superpower sometimes, especially when there's just so much to distract us in the world.
Yeah. Well, I think also jobs are very strange. Like in terms of like it's like in Big
Yeah.
when he's working and John Lovitz comes over like the window and it's like slowly, slowly. Like and he's like and I think that is actually a lot of people at work is like, don't do it that fast. Like don't get it done as like everything can take longer. But then also I feel like your brain starts to think what I do is difficult and it's hard and other people can't do it. I am a skilled person and it takes this long. And it's like this weird fiction about how long it takes to do something. Um, and for, because I worked in a hospital and I felt like lots of the people I was dealing with, not the doctors and the nurses, but like some of the more like staff people where I was dealing with were like, oh, it takes a long time to file charts. And it's like, I really don't think it does. You know, like there are 40 charts. They're organized alphabetically. It's like, how much time do you think it takes to find a place for 40 charts? Like, do you really think it takes you a minute for a chart? I don't think so. Like, so if it takes you over 30 minutes, I don't understand.
See,
And
this
like,
we're making
um,
listeners hate us right now because we're like we're the ones who are ruining the curve because we're just like aggressive overdoers of things. But
well, I I also like one of the things I with jobs, totally unrelated to comics, is like if I'm not working, I don't want to be at work. Like
oh yeah,
like
yeah.
like the idea of like shirking off at work, it's like I'd rather not be here. And you know, like if I don't get paid, that's fine because this is where I just have to be to get money. And if I'm not doing anything, I don't want to be here.
Oh yeah.
So that's another aspect of jobs.
Yeah, my thing was I
So
always want to get it done as fast as possible so I can work on the things I like working on, which is
yeah,
like my
yeah,
comic stuff. But well, let's talk about Drome. It is one of your
yeah,
mini projects, but the one that's the most
yeah,
immediate as it just came out in comic shops and
yeah.
bookstores everywhere. Not when we're recording, but you know, when it actually
Yeah, yeah,
publishes.
yeah.
Um and it should be everywhere if they have the refined taste you and I have, Jesse. Here's the solicit. First, there was nothing. Then humanity was born, and an endless cycle of violence began. From the depths of the ocean, a mighty demigoddess is called forth to rein in humankind's destructive impulses and teach a language of peace and harmony. Civilization quickly takes root, a great city rising from the desert. But the balance between chaos and order is a fragile one, and there are higher powers at work in this strange new world. I've read it. It's great and beautiful and inventive and wild and very Jesse Lonergan. I want to discuss how it came to be because again, apparently I have a lot of Jesse Lonergan headcanon, so I apologize about that. But like in the book itself,
um,
first I presume there was nothing. But my idea for this book was that you went in with an idea of a thing you wanted to do, not a story you wanted to tell. And sounds like that's true,
yeah, yeah. I think I think sort of like with we like first met talking about like Hedra
right?
and I felt like I sort of like laid down some groundwork in Hedra, um, but wanted to like push further with sort of a lot of like the visual ideas and the dynamics of like how pages could work, but also when you get to a certain mass of pages, you can sort of do more. Like it's like the rules change. It's like when a TV show like the first season, the second season, third season, all of a sudden the fourth season, it's like they can start doing different things because it's gone on long enough and the audience is ready for these things and has built this sort of relationship and I felt like I wanted this sort of volume of pages to do that with, and I really like. sort of mythic stories. There's sort of this weight, and I feel there's sort of this deceptive simplicity in them that allows for a lot of visual experimentation on my part. Like that there's with Drome, I think there's familiarity within it. Not that it's like something necessarily you've seen before, but it has a tone and the stuff that I think is familiar, so I can sort of push the visual limits as much as I want. Which is where I kind of think comics are interesting where I'm like where I feel I look at a page and I'm like, I think this is something. I don't know if anyone else will think this is something. Like is it there? I don't know if it's there. I think I put it there, but I'm not sure. It's kind of like the edge I want to be on.
Have you ever seen the show Community?
Yes.
The first season, I like the first season. It's very much like a sitcom in a very good
Yeah.
way. But then as you progress, if you progress through the series, it becomes increasingly more psychotic. And like, I think
Yeah.
that is like a really good example of what you're talking about, where shows like kind of get that space. And I do think it's interesting to think about that from a creative standpoint for comics, where, you have Hydra and it's kind of like a proof
Mhm.
of concept. It's like, this is a thing that
Yeah.
I do. I guess like part of it seems like with Drome, it's like there's two factors to it. It's like how much can I push the idea of what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
also how much can I push it over like what was Hydra, like 30, 40
He,
pages?
the image one was 56, I think.
56.
So it was kind of long. But the self-published one was 48.
But Drome is like 300 plus, right?
300 plus, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
so that gives you a lot more space to, I don't want to say stretch it out, because that kind of thing has a negative connotation to it, where it just seems like, oh, you're just like making this longer just so you can do stuff. But it's like, it allows you to do more things with your art and try to find ways to push your storytelling to the next level that you wouldn't get
yeah,
in a more condensed format.
right. Yeah, I mean, there's sort of this like po- possibility for like iterations and themes to go away and come back, which I feel like the shorter things get, like things don't go away and come back. Like you just have to sort of like, it's like a short pop song. It's like, it's there and then it's gone. But like as things get longer, there's a possibility narratively to build on ideas, to sort of I feel like, without spoiling it, there's things that I established like very early on, uh, that come back in the end, and I feel like I tried to establish them in such a way that they become normal and sort of invisible. So when they come back, it's a sort of a surprise that you've known was there all, which I don't think you can do if it's short. You know?
Right.
Um,
So it's almost like a
yeah.
palindrome, maybe.
Yeah, that was one of the when coming up with the title, palindrome was part of the ideas. Like I debated, me being weird, like I did debate just a palindrome, a nonsense palindrome, because I thought it would look good visually.
You mean for
Um,
the title or for the book?
for the title,
Yeah.
like something that was the same backwards and forwards, but also like visually the same backwards and forwards. So like O's and X's and V's would be good, but like E would not be okay,
Hmm.
because it's not the same left to right. But that's just me being weird, I think.
I do like that you made it Drome instead of something like that, because Drome is interesting because it can mean a lot of different things, but also
Yeah.
it leaves it so open to interpretation, where you can be like, why did he call it Drome? Like, what is that? I mean, I know you
Yeah.
made an Instagram post about it, but still, it's like, I like things that add mystery to the
Yeah.
process of engaging with it.
Yeah. Me too. And I think part of like the idea is very similar to like with Hydra, in terms of the idea is like to say, because I also had discussions with 23rd Street and First Second, like the ballad of blank. It gives such a defined idea of sort of what this thing is. Like if it's like the song of, to take something like the song of Roland or something like that, and it's like, well, but it's that like limits it. And so I sort of feel with a name and in a story that works the way this one does, and also with like the way it works within the medium, I don't want to sort of like bind it and like sort of lock it in place. And so Drome, I like the associations with it, means like the path, the sort of the way, the course of something, and with the story that's getting into sort of this mythical element, maybe elements of the hero's journey and stuff like that, which I feel corresponds with Drome. Um, yeah, and then like kind of an idea of a racetrack as well, like all these possibilities.
For listeners that don't know, 23rd Street is like the adult imprint, the
Right.
sister imprint to For a Second, which is a book publisher headed by, both of them which are headed by Mark Siegel. But I am curious, like you're mentioning some specific phrasings, like the ballad of and the song of.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
there a lot of discussion about the title and the build up to this?
There was a little bit, not too much, but I think with it being a word that people wouldn't necessarily know, there was a concern over that. There was concern that in saying it, people wouldn't know what you're saying, and it sounds like drone,
Sure.
not drome. And it autocorrects to drone. Not on my phone anymore. My phone knows the name of my book, but I think if you try and write Drome, it'll autocorrect to drone. Um, so there was some discussion of it, because I think I think like with my stuff, my personal stuff, it is a little weird, and I feel like the strength of it is that it works. But then I feel people get worried that they like that they're unsure about it, because it does seem like I remember somebody talking to me about Hedra going to Image, and they're like, this book, like, how did it get picked up? Because it's wordless. It's 56 pages, which is really long for a one shot. It's a one shot. Nobody does one shot. Like, it's all these sort of exceptions, but I think like, but it works.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, is like, yeah, I know it's a weird name and I know it sounds strange and people aren't going to know how to pronounce it, but it works. So
Yeah.
I feel sometimes that just sort of needs to be like reminded, like it does work. It's not a wordless comic that you don't understand.
Right.
Like it's a wordless comic that's crystal clear. Like there are large sections of Drome that don't have any words, and it's like I don't think they get confusing at all. Like I think it's very clear and it's experimental at the same time. Um, and Drome just sounds cool.
And now, a quick word from one of our sponsors. This October, Oni Press and Spectre Vision are proud to present High Strangeness, a startling new 5-part experiment in comic book storytelling. Inspired by first-hand accounts of real paranormal encounters within the dimly lit borderlands of human experience, each 40-page prestige format chapter of High Strangeness will interrogate overlapping phenomena like UFOs, hauntings, and cryptid sightings that together seem to indicate a higher, unseen order of reality. Teaming Spectre Vision co-founder and real-life experiencer Daniel Noah with an otherworldly cast of comics talents including Christopher Cantwell, Cecil Castellucci, Christian Ward, and more, High Strangeness Book 1 arrives on October 8th to investigate a 1967 encounter with the strange beings known as the Men in Black from Noah, superstar writer Chris Condon, Ringo Award-winning artist Dave Chisholm, and cover artist Jock. Look for High Strangeness Book 1 on shelves October 8th at a local comic shop near you. And now, back to the show. I have two things back to back that are going to sound like I'm speaking in opposites, but whatever. Hedra was released at Image during a time where they were doing a lot of experimentation and oversized one shots.
Yeah.
Like there was this one that was by Arab Sun. I forgot what it is. Something Elizabeth Dumb, but which I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
It was a great book, and it was this big old like pink, like oversized
pink
book.
And purple.
Pink and purple, yeah. And then Hedra came out during that stretch. But so like they were playing around with like different formats and stuff like that. But also I think sometimes, and I know this is easy for me to say as somebody who just reads them, but sometimes I think that we overthink things as products versus story, because it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things that's really amazing about Drome is that I think at least one of the main characters never says anything in the entire book. Does the red say anything?
No, he never says anything.
Yeah,
And Yellow doesn't either. I don't.
yeah,
Yellow might scream.
yeah. I was gonna say Yellow's pretty
Uh,
unhappy, so I think there's some loud
yeah.
noises that come out. But the thing that I think is amazing about it is like I think Red is one of the most resonant characters in the entire book. And I
Hmm.
think that part of the reason why it works so well is because, like you were talking about, in a lot of ways it's very archetypal where it's like really
Hmm.
built like it's really built on like foundations that we're familiar with, which allow you to experiment from outside of or from
Hmm.
that foundation. And I think that if you went too deep on like I have to make sure that this character is like really robust and that people are going to deeply feel for them and like everyone
Right.
knows
Yeah.
their name and yada yada yada, I think you would have kind of like lost the point of your own book to some degree. And so it's interesting
Yeah.
how being very archetypal allows you to experiment with the storytelling in a way that actually makes all of the rest of it work as like a story overall, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like over explaining. Like when someone tells you something and you got it, like the if they keep telling you, it's super frustrating. And so like I feel like having too much explanation, having too many, giving too much information sort of takes the fun out of it. And and I guess I feel creatively I trust readers. Like I'm like they'll figure it out. Like they'll understand. And I don't feel like they they might go a different direction than I expect, but that's okay. And like I find, movies where it doesn't tell me what to think, I enjoy more. Comics where I'm a little unsure and I go back and forth a little bit on it. It is probably a better comic than something where I'm like, I got it and it's locked in. Um,
I can't believe I'm going to bring this up again. I brought this up in a previous podcast with somebody else. I think it was Wyatt Kennedy, but I talked about there was this article I read about the advent of like all of these articles and videos that explain the endings of movies.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was
Uh,
talking about how like
ending explained like that just like
yeah,
pops up on your Google
yeah,
search. It's like,
and it's for
uh,
like the most obvious like movie. It's like Bambi ending explained. You're like, what? Do I need this explained? Is
did I
this that
miss something?
complicated?
Yeah.
Um, but they were talking to filmmakers about it and kind of their relationship with it. And like the thing that I find happening with me is like as we get this kind of overdosing on information about works and about like
Mhm.
details about them and stuff, the more I crave knowing less about something going in and even kind of knowing like
Yeah.
what the foundation was. Like all I went in knowing about Drome, I knew it was you and I didn't care about the
Mhm.
rest. I was going to read it. But I think that that helps because
Yeah.
like going in, it makes the experience more mysterious and interesting. And like I think the thing that's important to emphasize here is that as much as you were focused on like what can I do with the medium,
Mhm.
you do really deliver some amazing characters in here. Like I really love
Yeah.
Red. I love Red, who's
Mhm.
kind of like a had the connection with nature and like with
Mhm.
animals and everything, and like that really resonated with me. And then there was I don't believe this character actually had a name. I could be mistaken. I just called him Eye Patch Dude. That dude can
Patch.
eat
I
shit.
call I call him Patch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Patch
he's the
can eat
worst.
shit. He's the
Yeah,
worst. Yeah.
he's awful.
And I think that's the thing is like sometimes I think if you over explain stuff, you lose that like I have strong emotions about these characters and like
yeah.
they kind of like don't really have like traditional names, you know?
Yeah. No, they don't. But that was one I was surprised got through editing. Was it was like, okay, they're not going to ask me to like do a name page or anything like that, which I thought they might. But I was like, okay, we'll leave it as it is. But I called him Patch, yeah, and he's evil.
He's the
Like
worst.
he's just kind of an evil being. Yeah, I think I prefer not knowing. Like to me, some of the best like movie going or book experiences is when you know nothing about it. Like I saw The Big Lebowski. I didn't know anything about it. Like I just walked into it. I was like it was in college. I was with some friends. I was like, "What movie are we seeing?" And they're like, "The Big Lebowski." And I was like, "What is that?" And like then I like sat down, and this movie just like came out of nowhere. I was like, "This is the best!" Like, and I feel that that experience is good. And like, so I kind of feel like personally, I'm doing podcasts and talking and, I guess putting myself out there, but I don't really want people to know necessarily anything about me because I think that doesn't aid anything knowing who I am. And, you know, it's not really about me. I know it's very much me, but it's like this is the me that has been put down as clearly as I can on paper. And so yeah, I like things to be mysterious and not to be super clear. And like I like that I feel my voice like within comics is very much in like the composition and the layout and the structure and not in like the words I write or anything like that. And I feel it's like a little hard to hold on to, and that's fine. Like I'm okay with that. It's like not that I'm anything like JD Salinger, but like I remember really liking JD Salinger and starting to read a little bit about him and like reading a paragraph and being like, I don't want to know any more about him. Like I just want to have Catcher in the Rye, nice stories like that. That's it. I don't. That's all I need. I don't want to know anything about who wrote these books. And I think it's probably the more you know about him, because as life has gone on, you can't avoid it. It's like, oh, I this does not add to those stories at all. Like knowing about who he was. And so yeah, I just sort of I like it mysterious. I like it sort of like a puzzle um, as a book.
I have this is a complete aside, but I have my own version of that where I don't learn anything about people, but I come up with my own versions of them in my head. Like
Oh yeah.
Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide, the rapper. I have an idea in my head that he wears really nice, like kind of linen silken suits, and he plays like like the big shuffleboard, like with like
Like the
that they do on
cruise ship.
cruises and stuff, and like in Florida. My headcanon, I've said this like 100% sincerely to my wife multiple times, is that he will go and play with like senior citizens in Florida as he's like, that's what he just does in his free time because he just is like a chill dude. No one tell me anything else about
Yeah,
Pitbull. I don't
yeah,
want to know. But this actually brings up something that we were talking about before we started recording. It had nothing to do with Pitbull. It had something to do with Bill Watterson, where we were
yeah.
talking about like who a creator is versus what they do and how
Hmm.
divergent that can be. I do think it's interesting. I'm not trying to say that I'm trying to think about the best way to say this, Jesse. I don't think I would look at your work and expect you, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. Have you ever like found that people are surprised about who you are versus the work you do?
Yeah, I definitely feel like people meet me and are disappointed.
That is not what I meant.
I am. I think they expect me to be, I don't know, weirder than I am.
Like maybe you
like
have
like
like a
like
protractor with you at all times or something.
Yeah, like I actually think of like that Mike Myers sketch, like Sprockets. I think
Mm.
they expect me to be like some
The
like,
German guys?
yeah, the German, yeah, like I think they expect some like, I don't know what people expect, but maybe it's just sort of like a radio voice, like Terry Gross or something like that, or Ira Glass. It's like you see them and then they look weird because you've never put a body to this voice. It's just the voice. No, I guess I feel like I think my comics, I get told, it seem to come across as very unique. And then people meet me and I am pretty nondescript. And you could walk by me and not remember it. Like I think, and that's fine with me. Like I'm totally cool with that. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
I was gonna say
Um,
that sounds like exactly what you want. You want to be like
yeah,
the mystery, and sometimes being. I don't mean this sincerely. I'm just working off of what you said. Sometimes being
yeah.
generic is a good way to be mysterious.
Yeah, I mean, like we're all weird, and we're all strange in our own way. And I just like, but you put me in a comic book convention and it's like, I don't know, he's a white guy with glasses and jeans and a black t-shirt. Like, did you see him or his doppelganger or the other doppelganger? Like, so I think, yeah, people expect something, and I'm pretty neutral, in person. I,
I do. Well, sorry. Go
Not in
ahead.
conversation, but just like in appearance. I
Sure,
think
sure.
we're just like, oh, you're just a guy. Um,
I do think this ties into something that we've talked about before, and I don't remember if it was for the podcast or if we just talked about it at some other point. But
yeah.
I remember talking to you about the fact that you kind of didn't really feel like you fit anywhere, where like
Hmm.
your stuff, the work that you do is kind of you quote unquote have indie sensibilities, but you work on a lot of mainstream projects. Like this book
Yeah.
is 23rd Street, which is Macmillan, a Big Five publisher, and you're
Yeah.
working in the Mignolaverse and you're doing a
Hmm.
Godzilla comic. And like that's not normally what somebody who's getting risograph printed books and like doing like small press runs of like very
Yeah.
specific books is normally
Yeah.
doing. I mean, then like then throwing in like the other dichotomy or a trichotomy, I don't even know if that's a thing, but you draw super adorable animals. Like that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it's super weird. Do you feel like you've fit found your fit in comics yet?
Uh, in a way, maybe. I feel maybe more comfortable. Um,
I like that you
I
think you thanked Kyle Starks and Matt Kint and Tony McMillan and some other people
mhm.
in
Yeah.
the front
Yeah.
of Drome, and like they kind of have idiosyncratic approaches that don't necessarily
Hmm.
fit perfectly anywhere. And I kind of like, I'm not trying to make it seem like you're a bunch of oddballs, but like, I like that you kind of seem like you found your people amongst other people who don't necessarily fit perfectly in a box.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely feel like I've I've found people. I've gotten more like connected with people, and I guess I feel sort of, it's sort of the thing of like I think especially with like maybe someone like all of those guys, but like Matt Kint, where it's like I feel sometimes when I'm talking with people, there's this commercial thinking that to me is a little bit foreign, of like, oh, I have this personal project and I'm working on the pitch, and if the pitch gets accepted, if the Kickstarter gets funded, I'll do it. And to me, I don't understand that. It's like, no, I
You
have
just
this
do it.
project that I'm doing. It's going. Like, will it get published? It's like, I don't know. And I think Matt definitely has that sort of thing. He's gotten successful enough where it's like someone will publish it. Like, but where it's just like, well, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. And I don't like the same with Drone. It was done before I had a publisher. I just did it because I wanted to, because it's where my interest lies. And maybe that comes from like not being within the industry for a long time. Like I didn't, Hedra was like my break into the industry, and I was 40. And so like, we were talking about jobs, like I had a lot of them, and I did comics in the background. And so comics has always been something that I want to do and I just do. And so that sort of like commercial mentality, I feel like still feels a little foreign to me. It's sort of like, I don't know, like I was thinking, I was talking, I did a piece of art, and another artist who I like was like, oh, can I buy that? It's like, I'll just give it to you. I don't care. Or we'll do a trade and whatever. Like it, like it. I don't want to take Matt Kent's money. Like, you know what I mean? Like Matt Kent's a friend. Like Tony's a friend, and I don't know. I just give it to him.
And now, a quick word from one of our sponsors. As one of the most innovative comic publishers, Vault Comics has released some of the most exciting independent comics of the past 10 years. Vault's current lineup includes a murderer's row of titles like Post Malone's brand new comic series Big Rig, Money Shot Big Bang by Patton Oswalt, Tim Seeley, and Garth Graham, and the hit sapphic shenanigans of Corn Howell's Lilith, all of which are available at your local comic shop. Vault's backlist boasts a who's who of comic creators, many of whom have been guests on this very podcast, including titles from the likes of Rom V, Cy Spurrier, Christopher Cantwell, Tim Seeley, Aaron Campbell, Liana Kangas, and many more. Vault is even giving off-panel listeners 10% off on orders of Vault titles from www.vaultcomics.com by using the code OFFPANEL, that's one word, at checkout. So go to Vault's website and use the code OFFPANEL at checkout for 10% off your entire order. And now, back to the show. You know, it's funny. I was just listening to a podcast that Kyle Starks was on, and Kyle was talking about how one thing that Matt taught him was that, like, Kyle broke in and he made his own comic, and like he was selling it to people, and Matt comes over and he's like, "I'll just give it to you," and Matt was like, this is terrible paraphrasing, but the rough idea was like, I'm going to give you money because you're a professional and this is how it works. And I think that that's kind of like how I'm not saying you're wrong, but I do think it's good to learn that mindset because like it's an inextricably connected. And like one other thing I want to say about Matt and like his overlap with you is like, did you get, God, was it Heck? The book that he did with Brian Hurt and Marie Anger?
I don't think so.
The book, the story he did in there.
Give it to me.
Exactly. The book that the story he did in there could be modified to basically like you could change stuff in the story. So every time you look at it, it's different than what it was before. I think that's like, that's a pretty good summation of what it is. And like, I think Matt is like you in the sense that he's always trying to be like, how do I push the medium a little bit differently in a way that is interesting to me, as opposed to like, how do I tell a story about Wolverine punching Galactus? No offense to Wolverine punching Galactus. I would read the hell out of that comic, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think there's definitely like, you got to be a professional, and you know, you're at a convention to, you know, for your career. It's like, you know, and I guess if somebody wants to buy it, they can buy it, but it's also, I guess it's just sort of, no, he's right.
No, I know. I'm not trying to lecture you, man. I'm sorry.
No. I'm not taking. I'm trying to formulate. I guess it's sometimes it's like I draw a ton of stuff. You know, I produce a lot of work. Like I guess I have a very. I feel like I'm actually like merging two ideas of like anti-commercialism, but also anti-preciousness. Like it's all, you know, like I sit down and draw, and the first hour and a half, it's like this is all crap. I don't care what comes out of this. Like I am just like, get it out. I just gotta put ink on paper, because the more ink on paper I put down, the better I'll get at it, the more comics I'll make. Like, so it's like every day I've drawn, like by 6 a.m. I've drawn 2 pages of comics. Like, you know, like, are they good? No. Like I don't hold on to them tightly. It's just do it, just get it out. And so like, I think sometimes there's this feeling of preciousness about like a drawing or something like that. And it's like, no, it's not precious. It's all in this like deeply more artistic sense. It's all just like a process of thinking, and how are you interacting with, you know, the world and your soul or whatever. So like, this is $300. This is $350.
It is kind of arbitrary sometimes.
If I'm going to draw on a 6x9 piece of paper, it's $150. But if it's 9x12, oh my God, $400. It's like, what for 6 more inches of width? Like, what if the 6x9 drawing is really good because I had inspiration in that moment, and the 9x12 sucks because I just was what is, like, it's so like I have my commission prices, but it's so arbitrary and silly. It's like, oh, I don't know. It's like buying a painting based on size. It's like, I don't know. This one's only 2 feet wide, and that one's 3 feet wide. Like that's
how we buy houses.
I know it's how we buy houses.
I know. I'm sorry.
I know.
I have
that's what I'm making, houses.
I have a very specific thing that is either going to make a lot of sense to you or not going to make sense to you. Do you think more like it sounds like you care less about the end result than like, I mean, obviously you want to draw as well as you possibly can. You're not
Yeah,
going in
yeah.
like this is going to be a bad drawing at 6 a.m. But
No, I'm always trying my best.
it seems like you care more about what you're trying to get across than the end result. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, there's comics have so many different aspects. Like in sort of like in drawing like an individual thing, there's skill building, there's like confidence, there's this sort of abstract way of thinking that I feel is kind of unique where sometimes I feel like in a drawing, you'll be drawing something and it's kind of just a scribble. But I feel like if I know what I'm scribbling, you, the person who's looking at it, will not know what it is, but you will know that I know what it is, and then it's okay. Like if I just do something and I don't draw it very clearly, it's very muddy and fast, but I know what I'm drawing, the reader will also understand, even if they don't know what it is. Like, and so I feel like, I don't know if that makes any sense,
I think you
where
just
it's like,
explained Drome very well in the sense that, I mean, like, honestly, like, one of my favorite parts about that book is that, like, I love the way that you do fight scenes in that, and like that you will use
yeah,
arcs to, like, it's both an interesting like page design thing, but it's
mhm,
also explaining the action of the fight without actually depicting the ins and outs of it. If
right,
and
yeah.
I think that that's something that makes it, and I'm not saying that that's a scribble or something like that. That's very much
No,
intentional
but
how you're
it's a
doing it.
similar. I think it's a similar thing where it's like I know what this movement is, and I know what the sequence is, and I know where it is. And maybe in reading it, it might be like don't necessarily understand it perfectly, but you know that I know, and that's
Right.
okay. Like and I don't know if it's sort of like like the difference between a drawing where the inking is lacks confidence and the inking has confidence, but you can feel it. And it's like sort of this intangible thing that you is very much tangible at the same time. And so yeah, yeah. And so I guess the process is a big part of it for me. But then also like the end result, I guess I just sort of feel like one of the things I think that I think about maybe that I do differently than other people, and this might relate to the commercial thing, is I edit too. Like 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 when I drew Drome, like I also cut a bunch of pages and redrew a bunch of pages because they didn't work. But I think in the process of going through in the first pass, it's editing is not my job. Like that's not my concern. And sort of like when I talk about my morning drawings and stuff, it's like editing is not my job at that point. I'll get to the end and then I will look at it and then I will see what I have, see what I think I need, what I can lose, and revisit. And so it's like in this moment, this is my focus of just producing pages, and not restricting myself because I will restrict myself later. Or, it's sort of like I feel like some people think, oh, I can't do that because the editor or whoever will say no. And I'm like, well, that's their job to say no, not my
Yeah.
job. My job is to make them say no. Like like that's why they're there. And so like I don't worry about it. Like I'm like they'll tell me no. Like with the Godzilla versus the Boston story, like it's got a ton of footnotes. It's got like more than like 50 footnotes in it. And I didn't tell them I was going to do that. Like I just sent it to them. I was like, let me know. And it's like they can say no if they think this comic that is so dense with footnotes that you can't even put them within the comic. It has to be at the bottom. Like they can say no. Like it's not my
Was
job.
was Jake Williams your editor? I'm guessing he did not say no.
No, no, he loved it. He was like, "This is great."
Yeah.
But it's. I feel like if it's sort of like begging forgiveness versus asking for permission. It's like
Yeah.
one also if I tried to explain Drone before drawing it, I think everybody would say no. Like
Yeah.
every editor would say no. Like, so I just draw it, and then they say no, but they're more likely to say yes because it's already done. Uh,
Also, why put yourself in a box before you have
yeah,
to?
yeah. Make other people do that.
I have an important question about Drome that I suspect no one else is going to ask you. Are you ready, Jesse? Did you go in knowing you wanted this book to at least in part be propaganda for the effectiveness of simple machines?
uh,
There's a
I
lot of simple machines in
yeah,
here.
there
Blue
are a lot
comes
of simple
in.
machines, and yeah, she shows how simple machines work, and
I love it. I love it. I have always had an affinity for simple machines, which are like pulleys and levers and things like
pulleys,
this.
levers, ramps.
Yeah.
I I do have like an enjoyment of diagrams.
Oh, it
Like
works so well for you. It worked.
yeah, like I like diagrams. I like maps. I like all this sort of visual stuff, and there is like something like a pulley's magical.
Oh
I
yeah.
still remember, like I think it was shop class or some class, them showing how a pulley worked, and I don't understand it like anymore, and like explaining how the math worked. But it's like, oh, you do the rope around this a few different times, and then it takes no effort at all to lift up this heavy weight. And I'm like, it's like magic. So yeah, I definitely I like trying to get that stuff in there. But I didn't expect it to be viewed as propaganda.
I mean, who thinks about simple machines? I do. I don't
Yeah.
know why. When I took a class when I was like a kid, I was in like the, I don't know, gifted advanced class or whatever. And I remember there was this one section where they were just learning about simple machines. And I was like, this shit is awesome. Like, this is great. These things rule. And like,
Yeah.
it is kind of funny though, because it fits perfectly with your story. Because like Blue comes in and they're like, she's going to change the game or whatever they say
Yeah, I
about when she
know.
comes in there. And like, she's like, let me introduce you to a lever. And they're like,
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
believe this. Um, I do think, I mean, that's one of the things that I think is really fun about this book is you did that Instagram post about your non-comic influences in the book.
Yeah.
And it has to be like the first comic in the history of the medium that was influenced by the Odyssey, Kafka, Goldfinger, and Rollerball. But
Yeah.
I think that that's the thing. I mean, I'm not saying that no one else does this. Everyone does
Mhm.
this to varying degrees, but as much as you love the medium of comics and trying to push it, it seems like a lot of your influences come outside of the medium when it comes to the actual foundation of it.
Yeah. I think there's I mean, one, there's a long history of narratives and stories like comics aren't that old.
Yeah.
Um And yeah, I definitely feel like I think sort of when you think of sort of your like early stories, comics, I sort of got into comics later compared to a lot of people, like sort of mid high school. Um, and so, movies and books and stuff were probably like a bigger, earlier influence and sort of the stories that I kind of like the most. I feel sort of the when you get into sort of mythological stories and things like the Odyssey, there's this they are kind of mysterious. Like, and if you read like, these stories in the Bible, like the Old Testament especially, like they're kind of like dark and violent, and someone needs to sort of explain what they mean to you, but even then it might not make that much sense. And I feel Kafka is very similar, where it's like, I don't know that I understand what I'm supposed to understand from Kafka, but I just enjoy reading it. And I like the imagery that he puts together and the ideas that are present there and the way it makes me feel. And and so, yeah, I think I draw on those sorts of things, like for that's where I'm interested in stories. I'm not necessarily interested in like with the mainstream comic stuff. I'm not really interested in like the episodic storytelling necessarily. I kind of like one and done. Um, yeah, so I feel like I draw from a little bit of everywhere. Oh.
Is it weird for you to, I mean, you did like Man's Best with Pornsak Pisha Showed, which was
Mhm.
great. Is it strange for you to work in the more kind of episodic format because of that? Or is it just like, you know, doing a slightly different version of what you already are?
It's different. I wouldn't say it's strange. Like basically, I like working with writers because I have the kind of story ideas that I will have. um, it's maybe the stupidest sentence, but like there's where my mind goes, and there's what I will tell a story about, and it's very different from probably everybody's unique in sort of that regard, but then um, putting it with getting to have like someone else handle the narrative, and it goes where in a different place in a different way than I would go on my own, which I think is interesting. And it working with Pornsack, working with Mike, it's like it is this collaboration, and it's not what I would do on my own because that would be really weird. like it'd be like working on a writer has no effect on what I do. Um, and it's
So you like
also
getting, you like getting pushed in that other direction.
yeah, I think it's interesting to do that, to sort of, I don't know, just get to go another place than I would go on my own. And I feel possibly it also like has resulted in me like when I do my own stuff, it pushes me further into maybe a more personal territory. It's playing music with other people as opposed to just playing alone.
Well, and they probably influence each other in ways that you can and can't explain. And
Yeah.
like, it's all probably positive for you. And now, a quick word from one of our sponsors. Love sci-fi, horror, fantasy, and action? Then 2000 AD is the greatest comic you're not reading. 2000 AD has a whole universe of characters from Judge Dredd and Strontium Dog through to Rogue Trooper, Zenith, Shakara, and many more. In every weekly issue, you get 5 action-packed stories from incredible creators including Garth Ennis, Rob Williams, Alex DeCampi, and Dan Abnett. Get a print subscription and it'll arrive at your door every week, and your first issue is free. Or subscribe digitally, get free back issues, and download DRM free copies of each issue for just $9 a month. That's 128 pages of incredible comics every month for less than $10. And all subscribers get amazing offers like money off vouchers and exclusive products. Head to 2000AD.com and click on subscribe now, or download the 2000AD app and start reading today. And now, back to the show. I do have to ask. So, I mentioned in the beginning you're doing Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man, which is the follow-up to the series you did with Mike Mignola, which was Miss Truesdale and the Fall of Hyperborea. I have an idea in my head. I could be wildly wrong with that. Did it take an issue or two for you to really figure out how you wanted to approach that first series? Or like to get comfortable enough to be like, Mike, I'm doing this and you can deal with it.
Mike is so laid back. Like I think sometimes I've heard he's sort of like rough or like a little ornery. I feel like I've heard people say, but it's like I've had no experience
I don't
of
mean in
that.
that regard. I mean like
But
you would get in your head that this is what he wants, so I'm going to do that instead of doing me.
Yeah. I think a little bit. Yeah, definitely. There's. I think just because Mike Mignola being who he is and being someone who I've looked up to and admired for so long, there's this intimidation factor. But I think because he actually, for me, I think it was like page 5 or page 6, like on the script for the first issue, like it said like page 6, the fight continues, and that was it. That was it for page 6 or whatever. And it's like, okay, Mike trusts me like to do whatever I feel like, so I'll just do what I want to do, and he can say no. But there was this sort of nervousness. I still feel it when I have to draw Hellboy. I think, like, I think in my head, Mike Mignola draws Hellboy right, and everybody else is just trying. Like, maybe Duncan Forgato.
Duncan's pretty good at it.
Yeah, but but otherwise and I don't mean this as a negative to anyone else. It's just like that way Mike draws him, especially as he's gotten like older, the longer it's gone on, it's like that is what Hellboy looks like to me. And so that whenever I have to draw Hellboy, that's always the challenge of being like, all I want to do is trace like Mike Mignola drawing, but
Yeah.
it's got to be my drawing. But otherwise, within the world, I felt pretty free to sort of do what I want.
I think you do a very good job of it. It was just kind of interesting to like see that experience or see you on there. But I mean, like, that's what Mike signs up for. It's like Mike,
Yeah.
I don't know the origins of it, but it seemed like he had an affinity for your work. And I don't think that he wanted you to be on the book to be like, please trace my Hellboy art. He wanted you to like do your thing.
Yeah, he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do something in the Hellboy universe. And I think maybe at that time I had like the first chapter of Drome done, and I think I sent it to him. I was like, yeah, this is sort of what my comics look like. And he wrote back, is like, yeah, I don't know how to write this. But and he's like, so he just gave me a lot of freedom, I think, because I think he being an artist is like, yeah, this is the kind of design and stuff I do. You don't write it, you draw it. Like it's you diagram it out. And so I think he gave me a lot of freedom in the first series. I think he gives me even more in the new one. The scripts are looser, I think, and it's more sort of Marvel method where sort of he gives me the story and then I send him pages and he puts in dialogue, which is another form of like weird intimidation of like, well, I gave him 3 heads talking, so he'll figure out what they say. Like it's like this weird thing of like, I don't want to dictate to Mike what he's supposed to do, but I am laying out these pages and giving him whatever room there is. But it's a good back and forth.
Well, and like the thing is like when he looks at Drome and is like, I don't know how to write this. I mean, that's part of the reason why you do the projects you do, where you do the solo ones, because they can't come from anyone else. And I mean, I think that's what anybody wants, is like they want a work to feel like them. And like that's what readers respond to. I do have to bring up something though. It might be a cruel thing to bring up, and yet here I am bringing it up nonetheless. I was looking at the pull quotes for Drome on the Macmillan website, and one was from Booklist, which said, and I quote, Lonergan has forever changed the graphic novel format.
Awful.
How does it feel to have forever changed the graphic novel format with Drome?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't do well. Normally I don't read.
You don't read pull quotes. Yeah, I mean,
if I can avoid them. I often make my wife read reviews because it's probably like pressure? My most fragile.
Do you feel pressure from them?
No.
No.
Like I don't read them. I think I think it is that maybe pressure is the right word. Like, to go back on what I just said, but like they just mess with my head,
right?
Like positive or negative, it doesn't really matter. They push me away from creativity, and so I try not to read them. Second has been sending them to me, and I'm like, oh, don't look at this email. Like, just give my phone to my wife, and she's like, it's good. I'm like, okay, but yeah, I don't know, that review. That's a nice sentiment. I don't know if it's true. Like to say like, oh, he's changed graphic novels forever. It's like, well, no one will know that for a long time. Because to me, that statement means it's going to be incredibly influential and other people are going to do it. I don't know if that's the case.
Right?
Like, who knows? Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll just be this like, well, here's this weird anomaly that came out in 2025. Who knows?
Can I tell you one very specific way that you did change the graphic novel format forever? So for people who are watching a video, you can see the non-dust jacket cover of Drome, and I think it turned out amazing. I think the dust jacket's amazing. I think the book itself looks great. I love like the
Yeah,
squishiness. It's a heck of a production. Here's the
yeah.
funny thing. This cat that is currently on my lap, Kubo, he is like deeply respectful of comics. He walks around them.
Oh,
He knows that they mean something to me, so he doesn't touch them. He saw it and just started rubbing it over and over. He was sniffing and pawing at it
oh,
repeatedly. And you know what?
comics for cats.
Drome, it's got what
Yeah,
cats crave.
oh,
It's
yeah.
changed the graphic novel format forever for cats. So
Oh,
they got that going on for you.
yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. I appreciate people doing reviews and like giving the critical attention and stuff, but it's just like a personal thing. Like it doesn't do me any good. Like to read them, and I feel bad sometimes. Um, but like it just messes with my head. Um,
We do obviously wildly different things. I have a website and a podcast where I talk
mhm,
and write about comics. But like one of the things I forgot what somebody asked me one time, something along the lines of like, how does like what publishers think about what you do influence what you do? And I told
mhm.
them it doesn't, because like if I start trying to pursue what somebody else wants, it stops being mine. And
Yeah,
it kind
yeah,
of seems like that's, I mean, I'm not saying that that's why you don't like looking at reviews, but it seems like your concern to some degree is like maybe even like unconsciously it could push you in a direction that is, I mean, the very
yeah,
idea of reading reviews is almost antithetical to, again, my Jesse Lonergan headcanon.
yeah, yeah. That your headcanon's right. Yeah, it's just like I don't know. What am I gonna do with that? Like drum's done. From my point of view, I finished it. Like if they have something negative to say, it's like, well, I'm done. Like I can't go and fix it.
Yeah.
And if what does walking around thinking I've changed the graphic novel forever do for me? It doesn't do anything. Like it doesn't help me in any way. Um,
Maybe makes you
so
feel good for a bit.
yeah,
I don't know.
maybe,
I'm with
maybe
you. I'm
like
with you. I'm sorry I brought it
it's
up.
it's yeah, it just doesn't. It's very nice. I appreciate the review. But I just for creativity, like if it talks about something positive and it says like, oh, this thing is really good, it's like, oh, what I'm doing right now, I'm not doing that thing. Maybe I should be doing more of that thing. And that way of thinking for me, I think because my head is already going too many places at once, like putting another destination on the map is no good. Um, and
I,
so
I just have a couple more questions. And one of the things I want to bring up was like, I mean, if there's one thing that overlaps very specifically in my mind is that, I mean, I already kind of knew this because of Man's Best, but like you draw an amazing bird in Drome. Like that bird rules. I absolutely love it. And now you're moving on to like Panda Delivery Service where you're drawing
yeah,
really adorable pandas and varying different animals and everything like that.
yeah,
I am curious as to like, you said you're aiming at the medium, not at stories.
yeah.
But that said, when you're going from one project to another for yourself, do you ever deliberately want to go in a different direction, like genre or vibe wise, when moving on to that next project?
Um, yeah, yeah. I feel like I think like any project, like working on it and like spending a lot of time on it, I personally get like frustrated with like the limits of that project, which could be something like, say I was doing a Western and it's like, man, I just want to draw a car. Like it could be that basic element of content, but also I think like there's all the visual parameters that you set up, like this, like for Drome or for Miss Truesdale, like I'm drawing with a brush pen. I basically use that brush pen, and that creates a certain way of like putting lines down, a certain line quality, a certain way of thinking that is very at once very comfortable, but also pretty controlled at this point. And sometimes you want something that has a little less control, a little less like puts more noise out there. And so I might pursue something in that direction. Like I did this sort of fever dream Batman bootleg. Um, that's like as much noise as I can, visual noise as I can put on a page, and very sort of like, it ended up being a slow process, but fast looking drawings and stuff, and very, I think, very distinct from like what Drome looks like, or what Man's Best looked like. And it's just sort of, I don't know, wanting to go in other directions and try other things.
It's flavor changers.
Yeah, like it's at once, like there's that with like sort of say like a classic mainstream artist, where it's just like it's just pen and ink forever, and like it's just sort of this refinement of this one thing, and I respect that and I appreciate that, and there is this sort of level of growth that you can get with it, but personally, I think I would just get bored if it was the same thing over and over again, and so I kind of always want to push myself in like a new direction. And so like Panda Delivery Service, like I feel like I spent a lot of time with Drome, like thinking about layout and panels and composition and all of this sort of stuff in a certain way. And Panda Delivery Service is moving very far in a different direction from that, where I think it's sort of related, but like the focus is not on composition in the same way. The focus is much more on the content of the images and the way they work together. So I always sort of feel like it's not like I'm done with composition and layout. I just want to push a different direction or do something else.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you just did the same thing all the time, I'm guessing you'd get pretty bored with it. And like sometimes you just want to
Yeah,
mix things up. So I don't know, it stays fresh. I mean, like that's the
yeah,
thing is like you're talking about with the Batman comic you did. I think that's the interesting thing is like that change wasn't composition or content, that was tool. It was like the tool you
yeah. I
used that
know.
changed. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's probably enough to kind of get that feeling out so you can kind of get back to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whatever you wanted to do otherwise.
Yeah, and I feel like, experimenting in that way, maybe it's a dead end, but it leads to an idea that can come back in some other way, and create, you know, help me to create fuller comics, more comics with more depth, because and sort of with that Batman thing, sort of experimenting in like how a narrative could not be a narrative, how sort of non sequiturs could kind of work within a comic, to some success, some lack of success as well.
I think you are incredibly successful at it, Jesse. But that is all I have for you. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about Drome, Panda Delivery Service, everything else you got going on. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.